the only show that's 3 dimensions away from Spider-Man 3 actually being a great game. I'm your host 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Spider-Man 3, the game, released in 2007. Spider-Man 3, the game, is a game that is a tie-in to the 2007 movie, also called Spider-Man 3. The game is not nearly as fun as the movie, but it is still an interesting game. Spider-Man 3 was developed by Treyarch, who would also develop the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. The game the game is a mixed bag for me. The game does have, of course, the voices of Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Thomas Hayden Church, Topher Grace, and James Franco, if that's a bonus for you. And I always say, I'm always a big fan of recognition. Like, if they bring back voice actors to voice their characters in the game, that is always a plus for me. And so, I've just been playing this game lately because I just bought a new Spider-Man poster and 3D poster because I'm trying to relive nostalgia and really hyping myself up for the new Spider-Man 2, the game which has Venom. And so I'm like, you know what? I haven't played this game forever, and it's sitting on my shelf, so I went and popped it in. And you know what? It is not as fun as I remember. Because I remember in 2007, I had that game for PS2, played it all day and night. You could not get me off that game. That's how much I loved the Spider-Man 3, the game. Playing it on Xbox 360 is not as good fun. You know, it turns out the game is actually different port. It was developed by, I forget the game developer's name. I want to say not Portkey Games, but like they developed like not Avalanche Games. I'm gonna have to look it up. It's right here. That's the developer's name right here below. All right. But yeah, they developed that with the PS2 version and the Xbox version, and the PSP version, while Treyarch developed Xbox 360, PS3, and the PC version. And I will say, there's a massive difference between the two. I remember playing PS2, and I'm like, okay, when does Spider-Man, freak out where you have to wear the black suit? Well, that's not in this game because Treyarch did not develop that PS2 port. So the PS2 port to me is a much better port because it feels like also Spider-Man has upgrade abilities. Spider-Man, you can like switch in between the black and red suit, and you earn the black suit much earlier in the game versus on the 360 when you're playing it. You do not earn it until much later into the story. Like, it's like way after you beat New Goblin. And while in the game you just gotta collect some tokens, and then like in 2 missions later you're fighting New Goblin, and then you get it in the PS2. Versus in 360, and I hate that more than anything, is when you have to earn something that takes forever to earn, and it just feels like another skin. It doesn't feel like there's nothing different. Versus it actually has something in the PS2 version. PS2, it feels like, it's like trying to eat your face alive. Like, it's like you have to, like, the more anger you get, the more it just seeps into your skin. That's what I love about it in the PS2 version. Now, there is some things I do like about the game. Like, I do like that, it does feel like it's trying to piggyback off of Spider-Man 2. So it does feel like a continuation of the Spider-Man 2 game. And it does have a lot of bigger worlds, and there's more things you could do in the game compared to the other game. Like, there's secret locations you can go into. Like, you can go into the church from Spider-Man 3. You could go to the construction site from Spider-Man 3. You can go into the Daily Bugle like you did in Spider-Man 2. And this time it looks much more detailed. You can also go into, like, Peter's apartment, which I thought that was always just chef's kiss. And you can also go into Harry Osborn's secret, his house, and then you can break the mirror and go into a secret lair with a goblin hanger, and it's just so unique. And if you don't want to break the goblin mirror, you can just jump down on top of the Oscorp, on top of his house, and then go through it, and you're in the goblin lair. And I like the attention to detail in the game. Like, to me, that is what works so well with the game. And it's a huge map. Like, you feel like you're like this big on a huge map. I really like that about it, and I do like that, that it has Tobey Maguire just swinging around the city in a big world, open world map as Spider-Man. And I do like that, it does have missions from the movie. And I do think there's some funny things I want to talk about in the game. But I do like those aspects of it. And I do really like the whole, the black suit, that you get to swing around in the black suit, even though I kind of wish it was something more like in the PS2 version. I do also like that there are some side missions that our characters are never going to meet, like you're the lizard. Like, it feels like to me this concludes his story in this game rather than trying to do it what they did, because he's not really in the movie. He's just a side character that has nothing to do in the movie, and he doesn't even become the lizard until Amazing Spider-Man 1, which is a reboot. So, I mean, I really feel like this is the only time you're going to get him as the lizard, Dylan Baker. And so to see him reprise his role as the lizard for this game, I think that's so unique. That's so great. And I just think that is cool. I also really like that, there are some missions. This is the funny part I want to talk about. I don't know if I'm inclusive, but I'm a negative or positive. I might say positive because the movie didn't. This made more cohesive sense. Well, for instance, in the movie, Sandman and Green Goblin just team up compared to in the game, which was actually from the movie, but then they changed it. I think they edited around it. I don't really think they changed it, but in the game, Venom comes in Eddie Rock's form. He comes sits down next to him at the park bench, and Sandman's like, "Leave me alone." And then Venom just drops down, and then Venom, of course, just like you see his daughter in a web, and Venom's like, "You got to help me, or I'm gonna kill your daughter." Because that was originally supposed to be the scene in the movie, but then they changed it to make it more like, Venom and Sandman just team up because they both want to kill Spider-Man, which makes basic generic. And there's also something in the game that I really liked that was in the movie that they cut, which I thought was stupid because it makes just Sandman basically pointless to be in this fight. Was that Venom, of course, had Sandman's daughter. So at the end of the game, Sandman hugs his daughter and everything, and back when Venom was hiding her out, he said Spider-Man killed her, like Spider-Man was, and that pisses Sandman off to where Sandman starts attacking Spider-Man in the game, and I'm like, that would have been so much cooler to see in the movie than in the freaking game. Why are we doing this? Okay, when Venom said that, I'm like, oh shit, and that much is much, much cooler. Why would you do that, Sony? Why would you ruin it like that in the movie? I mean, seriously, it's like, and I always love that. To me is the funniest thing in the world when they have a video game tie-in and they get the script from the movie, and then they make the game off the script from the movie, and then they change the script of the movie. So then when they have a game that comes out and there's a lot of things changed from the movie, you're like, yeah, that's not in the movie. Yeah, that's not in the movie. Just like Incredible Hulk. When I was reviewing it last week, when I was playing the game, at the beginning of the movie, in the game, Incredible Hulk tries to commit suicide, and then he turns into the Hulk. Well, that's actually in the beginning. It's in a deleted scene in the movie because that was supposed to be the opening of the movie, but then they changed it and went a different direction at the beginning. So, and they even referenced that scene in Avengers. So I'm like, that always made me laugh when they change scenes like that in the movie that are meant to be in the movie. That's always funny to me. There is a lot of great combat. I do think the PS2 version is a much better port if you want to check either one of these versions out. The PS2 I recommend, even though the graphics are better than the 360. If you just want a fun story gameplay wise, I would recommend the PS2. But as for the story overall, the story is basically, it's one of those stories where it has Spider-Man, it's a Spider-Man movie tie-in game. But it focuses on like I had the same issue with Incredible Hulk where it's a game that they were making, but they didn't have the script, which this was meant to be a tie-in game. They were developing it as a tie-in game. This is Spider-Man 3, but because they didn't have the script yet, they created a lot of side plots and like different storylines in the game. And then they just like made like the smaller subplots of the movie, just like with Incredible Hulk. And they put like, okay, well, he's got to fight Green Goblin. Okay, here it is. Okay, he's got to fight Sandman and Venom and all that. Okay, here it is. Okay, he gets the symbiote suit. Here it is. Everything else is mostly like it's 80% original story. But then 20% is like is the movie tie-in, and I think that's kind of bullshit because I want to play, but I understand why, because this game, and I know people are probably controversial. Well, last week you were shitting on Incredible Hulk for the same reason. I think this one does it better though than Incredible Hulk. Incredible Hulk just feels like it's a completely different game, that which is meant to be a different game. This one feels like this. Yes, this is Spider-Man 3. But it felt like they did not have a script yet, so they just went on their own direction. And then, they got the script and they tried to throw that shit in as quick as possible. And sometimes it works and sometimes it does. And I feel like it works much better in this version, but I feel like I'd rather play the PS2 version than this. I do like that, I do like the combat and stuff. There is some, janky, the things I do like is the combat. I like, the architects and, the stuff from the movies and all the Easter eggs and nods from the movies. I also like Bruce Campbell come back as the narrator. I thought that was really cool. And I also like some of the cutscenes in the game, like Mary Jane swinging her around. And also Green Goblin fight scene. Also, here's a cool bonus. If you buy it right now before the Xbox store goes under, the Xbox 360 store, if you buy it on PS3 or Xbox 360, you can actually play after you beat the New Goblin in the, at the beginning of the movie from the game time where Peter and the New Goblin are fighting. You can actually play as him if you purchase the DLC of New Goblin, which I did, and you can just fly around as James Franco as the New Goblin. It's on the store. It's like $1.99 or something like that, and you could play as the New Goblin, fly around and just shoot bombs out, which does nothing, but it's still fun, like a little thing skin you can have. It's really fun. I bought the skin so I could play it, because the Xbox store is about to go under, and so I want to play as the Xbox. I want to play this game, and so I played this New Goblin. PS2 does not have that version, or PSP, so it's only on like the newer consoles. So I played it off that, and it was fun. I really enjoyed playing as a New Goblin. It says you can play as Venom, but I have not found that where I could play as Venom. But I've been playing as Black Suit Spider-Man, and I play a lot as New Goblin. I thought it was fun. New Goblin really is just you can't really do nothing, just fly around and just shoot stuff. But it's those things I really enjoyed about the game, and I like the voice acting, and I like the cover of the game. The cover of the game should have been the movie poster. It's so cool how it has like just a suit where it's like half beater suit, half the symbiote suit. It has a 3. The suit was so iconic. That movie logo was so iconic that Sony for the PS3 put that as their logo for PlayStation 3. And then, of course, when they got like an upgraded version of the PS3, they went different direction with that. But I still think it's really cool. Also, I really before they went for the PS3 look. Nowadays they just put PS3 or PS4 or just put the logo. Used to they put PlayStation. So which now my PS5 just has the PlayStation symbol in white. That's it. Which I'm just like, I really expected that Sony likes Spider-Man so much that they put that as their PS3 as they use the font as their logo. Thought that was so cool. My dislikes are really just like I feel like some of the character designs in the game, like for the PS2, look better than the PS3. PS3 makes them look like they're meat puppets. Like there's a lady that's just like help, help, and like a damsel in distress, and all of a sudden her face every time it's almost like it's a parody moment where if you don't save her, the building just blows up and she goes, "Oh no!" I just start laughing. It's hilarious. And I also like I think like J. Jonah Jameson looks great as always, but then they're like Peter Parker looks weird like in a next gen form. And also I do think that there are some things about it does feel unique to see the game in its full form. I just do feel like some of the character designs, and I do think that the PS2 version does a lot of things better than the 360 version and PS3 version. Like I feel like even though the only thing really feels like is better is you get to the better graphics and you get to play as the New Goblin. But other than that, it feels like the PS2 version has a lot there's a skill tree that's better rather than it's just like okay yeah just click on these buttons in the main menu like on the newer gen console versus on the original to PS2 you get like a skill tree that's really cool and you could tell the two different studios. The PS2 version studios felt like they were working on a better version, like they were trying to put love and care, while the other ones, the treyarch, just felt like they were trying to rush it to release date launch, which was May 3rd or May 4th. And so, I feel like that was like their biggest goal was to just try to get it out on release date, while the other studio was like, look, even though we got a release date, we're going to try to make this a fun experience. And that's my biggest issue is that it feels like you're playing two different versions of a game. One is with love and care. The other one is just trying to make it to release date for their paycheck. And I really do, sad to say that because I do feel like no developer wants to make a bad game. But it feels sometimes like that is the case. And other than that, that is my takeaway on the game. If I had to give the game a grade, I would give it a 6.7 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching.